On this episode of ResiWeek, we wrap up 2021 and look towards 2022 with our friends Amanda and Giles. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 309, The Virtual Year.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by FSR.
Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matty Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Amanda Wildman. She's the co-owner of True Media Home. How you doing, Amanda?
Very good, Matt. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. And then we have my good friend, Mr. Giles Sutton. He is the SVP of Member Success and Sales over at CDI. How you doing, Giles?
Doing really well, Matt, and even better for seeing you and Amanda. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm just glad you mentioned me before Amanda, because now I don't feel like an add-on. It's gonna be one of those shows, ladies and gentlemen, because this is our Christmas show, the wrap up of the year. So we got no stories, nothing tantalizing, because it's the last. There's nothing going on. There's nothing news right now. So I wanted to kick this off with the normal things that we do at the end of the year. And Amanda, I'll start with you. What was your biggest story of 2021? When you look back on 2021, what is going to be that one thing that kind of sticks out in your mind as the most important story of the year?
Oh gosh, I think it was for me probably trying to figure out and navigate this whole how do we get back together again thing. How did we deal with Expo, coming up? How did we deal with just being around other people? I mean, every one of us so desperately wants to be around other people, and to see our friends. I mean, this is the longest that we have been without seeing each other, face to face and direct, having these conversations. And I think our industry is really, really hungry for it. But we said, it was, what do we do? How do we navigate that? How do we be responsible? I think that they did a really good job this year at Expo. But it's been difficult. I mean, we are a global association, and how do we have those relationships, and how do we get that information across without being able to have those organic conversations? And so it was another year of that. And so I'm hoping that 2022 is where we can maybe start fixing some of that, where we can see each other more. But we just were having a previous call. I don't know how well that's going to work.
Well, that's a bright point to end it on. Thanks. This is supposed to be the happy, cheerful show.
Well, hey, I got to see people. I didn't get to see you, but I got to see Tim Albright in person. We shared a hug.
I'm so sorry.
A little side hug. Oh, come on. Yeah. I love him.
It's fine. He doesn't listen to the show. He'll be fine. Giles, what kind of same question to you? What was the biggest story of the year? Getting your old job back?
Yeah. I'm sure everyone. That's absolutely all the headlines, isn't it? That's the biggest news story for sure, right?
Giles is back as SVP, baby.
I mean, mine is kind of related to what Amanda said. I agree. I think 2020 was the virtual year. That was the year we all were kind of getting comfortable with everything being virtual. 2021 was us desperately craving, getting back together again in person and actually, experiencing live events and just navigating the year with different locations opening and closing and just having to deal with that. But I think the overarching story for me which is related to that, is that actually, across the board, business has been really strong for the whole market, and surprisingly so. And we've seen that in a lot of the stories this year, and a lot of the conferences that have happened. That's been the headline, is that with the CE Pro 100s and all the other groups, everyone is experiencing a lot of growth, and at the same time that friction with the supply chain issues, huge demand because the property market pretty much everywhere is booming. that coupled with the supply chain issues, so those have been the stories that I think have been the biggest for the year. It's just everyone's doing okay. We survived, thankfully, and as an industry managed to navigate a really, really turbulent time. But what we probably all need now is more time coming together, learning, educating our teams, focusing on the professional development of our teams and certifications, and that really being the focus for the year ahead as we look to professionalize our businesses more.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll add that, to me, I think the biggest story that just kept coming up, beyond the obvious, like COVID one, which we're not going to mention because I think you got enough of it. But the supply chain, the chip shortage, the absolute inability of anyone to ship anything, was always this year was definitely the biggest story that we hit. We almost talked, I don't want to say we talked about it every week, but we pretty much talked about it in some way, shape, or form once a month. Like, it was the predominant story, and it's still going on. I got a report this morning that Intel is saying that they don't expect it to get better till late 2023, and that's Intel. I don't know if there's a bigger company to throw weight around getting their stuff made than Intel.
They know a thing or two about chips.
One or two little things, Heck, they even have their own trademark jingle for them.
But what was interesting, Matt, though, is our community, I think, did a really good job of coming together and sharing ideas and resources. Because when someone would be like, hey, I'm having a shortage on this, does anybody have one of those?
Yeah.
Does anybody know where to source this or where to get that? And I think that's one of the unique things about our industry and about our community is how many channels we have to help communicate. And I think manufacturers, for the most part, when they realized we just wanted to know, they did okay. When they realized we weren't just going to rip their head off, we just didn't want the date to keep moving. So we're like, we'd rather you tell us worst case scenario, first, kind of a thing. Once we got that, but within the community, there were people passing, back and forth, hey, who can get this amp? Or, what projector are you finding for this project? And I think, too, because people maybe did substitutions, people learned maybe about different product lines, too. And so that's, I think, kind of interesting. We make do. We're the industry of, we get it done. Where there's a will, there's a way, and we're going to figure it out. It might take a little longer, but...
It is what it is. Giles, what did you see from a tech standpoint? I know this year was light in new tech for sure, but what did you see as kind of the biggest impact? What tech made the biggest impact this year?
I think it was still carrying on probably from the year before, but I think it's just some of these trends take a little longer to actually become something that actually integrators implement in their day-to-day businesses. And for me, the biggest one is probably lighting, and lighting fixtures probably became an even bigger thing this year. I think what was interesting, what it wasn't, which we predicted it to be, was probably the resi-mercial and work from home wasn't quite as big as we thought it was going to be. And that came up at some recent conferences. And that actually a lot of businesses are actually trying harder to get their employees back into the office, and that being the approach. But yeah, certainly I think lighting continues to be extremely strong. And that really, that trend with fixtures and how that then leads on to wellness technology, I think there's been that trend I think we'll probably see growing even more into next year, I would think, as integrators become central to a lot of those discussions that are being had when homes are being designed, with architects and designers sort of leading with making healthy homes and how technology can be used to implement that.
Yeah, it's real good. Amanda, same question to you. What tech stood out to you as having kind of the biggest impact in either the industry or your company or your clients?
With us, I mean, obviously lighting was such a huge thing. I mean, to echo that, that was huge for us this last year. But I think for us, it's been developing our vocabulary as an industry, because we've had a lot more access to online training, not just within our own channel, but within other channels. So we've been able to add on and maybe talk more designer speak, or talk more architectural speak, or talk more wellness speak. I mean, CEDIA put together the wellness, or the WellCon, their WellCon conference, and a lot of those people were technologies that maybe integrators we haven't touched before, we haven't worked with before, and it was exciting to see, like, okay, we might not necessarily like tomorrow dive right in on all of those. Like, I don't know how much my company is going to get right now into water purification and that kind of thing, but I was able to build a lot of my knowledge base and build a lot of my vocabulary around that I have resources that I can speak intelligently about that, and figuring out how do I as an integrator partner with these other things. Because I always think, like, the integrator, like, we're the heartbeat, we're the lifeblood, right? We're the nervous system. We maybe don't have to be the expert on every individual piece, like the HVAC piece, or, the humidity or the water or whatever, but we are the ones that bring it all together. We're the ones that help, provide all that reporting, make things work easier. And so for me, it was just a big thing of, like, developing our knowledge base, developing our vocabulary, talking about wellness. I'd never spoken really about wellness before, probably this last year. Now it seems to be like one of those buzzwords that everybody wants to know. Well, what can I do for technology for wellness in my home? So,
all right, I like it. What's your prediction? What do you expect to see going into 2022?
I think consumers, just as much as we were at home and we got educated, I think they were at home and they got educated as well. So I think that we're going to have far more savvy consumers and clients out there. I have one client, actually two, that came to me, and their list of what they were requesting and the things that they were asking for are definitely things that it wasn't like, oh, I just want to have audio in my house, or, oh, I just want you to figure out something with my lights. I mean, some of them are like actually researching, fixtures, or they're researching, what can my house actually do? And, so they're coming to us far more knowledgeable. And so that's why, again, I think it's so important for us to really, as an industry, embrace the education. CEDIA has done a really great job, I think, with developing their education and certifications. I've got to give the plug for that, being part of that, but really developing that and raising the bar, because our clients and consumers are raising the bar in their knowledge as well.
Giles, what are you seeing for 2022? You've got a unique, just again because of your regular full-time job, not your interim full-time job, but your regular full-time job. What do you see as what the landscape's going to look like for 2022?
Well, I think this year we saw more M&A activity. I mean, the big one this year for me, I was going to say, obviously, is Snap AV and everything that happened with them. They acquired a distributor at the start of the year. They acquired acquired Access Networks. Their IPO, they became Snap One. Interesting, within their IPO, how they, I don't know if you've read it, but actually if you look at their IPO, they really feel like we're just scratching the surface of the scale of this industry, and how, just from their perspective, how much of a percentage they feel that they represent, which is not the majority, which is really interesting, and the idea of the do it for me integrator. So interesting to see how Snap how that plays out into 2022 with potentially more acquisitions. We're seeing also with ASION and their tie-in with HDSN, and also ASION working with Powerhouse, more of those kind of partnerships forming as well. But I think again, sort of just when we were coming to talking about sort of the engagement with integrators, I think it's going to be a lot more of kind of going to the integrators, going to the regional markets. I'm hearing a lot from manufacturers and other groups within the industry that are doing things like road shows and things like that, to actually go and just because some things can't completely be counted on, and actually just taking things more regional. And actually that's, what we're planning as well in 2022 is more regional activity, whether that's through our partnerships, offering education, in-person education at powerhouse locations, and also collaborating with our partners at some of their events, but also our own regional events through tech summits as well. So I think a lot more of kind of going to the market is what I'm hearing there.
I'm going to be very intrigued to see how the community in general responds to 2022, because I think 2021 there was a very interesting dichotomy, right? You had tons of jobs that you couldn't get product for, so you couldn't finish them, which led to, customers either understanding or not understanding, or postponing, right? And doing, we'll look at that down the road. And then you also had an understanding that for years we've kind of taken the approach that we're constantly in competition with the master bath or the sports car or the kitchen cabinetry. And I think if you were paying attention, you realized that in 2021 it was fairly clear that you're more in competition with the trip to Venice than you are in the to the granite in the kitchen. They're gonna get the granite in the kitchen no matter what you sell them. It doesn't matter. I'm very intrigued to see if the community can learn from a business standpoint, if they can pick up on the trends and the changes and the way their customers responded to them in 2022, because I think there's a huge opportunity there.
So, if I could just jump in,
yeah, please do.
I'm sure. So it's interesting you should say that, because I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not an integrator. I'm not out there in the field, but
we've noticed.
But I was an integrator.
You used
for
to
14
be.
years.
You used to be.
Yeah, and worked for many. And I think us being compared with that holiday to Venice. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure it is that. I think it's the fact what this has taught us is that we're more of an essential utility. I feel like actually it's more that we're an essential part, because people realize how it's needed to be able to work from home, to entertain. So actually, if anything, I think it's about our messaging as an industry that we're not like that luxury trip to Venice, that actually we are a critical part of home infrastructure, as critical as having, a plumber or an electrical contractor that you lean on. So I don't know if that's just my perception, is that actually we were in the middle of the pandemic. Everyone turned to technology. Technology was the answer. Our industry was the answer to solving all these problems of like kids being homeschooled, having to everyone was on Zoom. They had to have some separation between work and relaxation. So they'd upgrade all their entertainment systems. And in doing so, we became one of the essential parts to a person's, home requirements. I don't know. I'm interested to hear what Amanda thinks.
I think kind of in the middle though, because I think, yes, we've become maybe more essential, but I think the way that we need to describe it is we need to describe it as like the experience, like what Matt was saying. So for example, like that's how we get into the conversation, because you're never going to have a plumber. I mean, wouldn't imagine that you're going to have a plumber talk about the experience of your plumbing within the house.
Good point.
I mean, it's just kind of, you know what I mean?
I want to meet the plumber that can, though.
Yeah,
me too.
That dude is my marketing hero.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Again, so that is, just a basic utility that everyone comes to expect, that you can, have hot and cold water, you can take a hot shower, you can flush a toilet, all of those kind of things. So we aren't quite like that, but we are maybe a little bit more like, we can describe ourselves a little bit more like that experience. So we have to find that in between of how do we sell ourselves and how do we explain ourselves to clients, because we aren't just that, because if we bring ourselves down to like just being like those boxes, right, that are just there that people don't understand. I mean, everyone understands what a hot and cold tap faucet, does. So they get that. There's not a learning curve to that. If we try to bring ourselves so down to like just being, the utility and the needed part there, and we don't explain the experience, it just feels like it could easily be erased, that they don't necessarily need us. We're a luxury at that point. So we have to do the job of selling, that experience, that it's going to last, much longer than that trip to Venice, or much longer, than that vacation to Disney that you might be taking with your family.
Memories last forever. If Hallmark movies have taught me anything this season.
But so we're kind of in that in between, right? So we're pushing more to want a seat at the table to be the utility, but we also are.
Can I take it a step further?
Yeah.
Please.
The plumber or the electrician, right? They're going to come in, and it is an essential part of your home, right? They're going to run pipes. They're going to run wire. They're going to give you switches. They're going to hopefully give you some lights. The plumbers are going to provide some fixtures. We can come in and be the backbone, right? Run some internet, run some Wi-Fi, put in some smart controls. Somebody is going to speak to that homeowner and explain to that homeowner that in this brand new kitchen you got, you're going to need a polished brass pot filler on your stove and a beautiful Kohler voice activated, touch sensitive, whatever you want, faucet over your apron sink, right? And they're going to take that plumber's $100 Home Depot fixture and replace it with a $3,000 brushed whatever faucet, right? There's a way to upgrade that. That electrician is going to come in and put those switches in and put in that ceiling hugger LED that's hideous from, again, the big box store or the electrical supplier. And come at me, electricians, it's fine. But we have an opportunity to come in and say, well, to both of your points, we can supply better lighting fixtures that look better, that show your home better. Like, if you can, you've got to bridge that gap of being essential, which is really important. And I want us as an industry, I want us to be at the table and be viewed as an equal, right? I'm tired of, we were talking about this before the show, as I soapbox for 2 minutes. I want us to be in all of those meetings as the technology professionals, just like the electricians and the plumbers, who have to look at those prints and go, yeah, you can't do that because we got to run our 6-inch stack right there. So we need that spot. And then we should be able to come in and say, yeah, we need that demarc by the electrical panel for our network rack. Right? That is what I want to see. The extension of that, though, is I also want to see the ability to come in and be like, yeah, you can do that, and that's the bare minimum. That's what you need to have. I like what Lennar does for their track homes is the bare minimum. That shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be that, hey, we can now come in and we can show you how to properly put a TV in, distribute something, distribute lighting, distribute control, automate things.
Well,
like,
and
there's a goal for both.
And you see these things. I had this example. I got like 3 phone calls afterwards because I went on this little, I don't know, social media rant for a second because I was walking through a house.
Shocked. That is my lane. Get out of my lane.
Sorry. No, we had gotten a call from someone who has been in their house and their network. They were struggling getting things working in their network in their home. And it was in a neighborhood that we knew the builder was doing the whole, neighborhood. And we had tried talking to the builder before, and he's like, my electrician just takes care of all of my stuff.
Sounds great.
Yeah. A couple houses were still under construction. So before we go to meet this guy, we're like, okay, well, let's see what they're doing, right? Because it's the same people doing it, so they're going to be doing it the same way. And I was shocked because they had pre-prepped for electrical charging stations in the garage for their future for an electrical car.
I like
but
it.
There was, good. But there was no network infrastructure in the entire house.
Amanda, you just need Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Don't you know everything runs off Wi-Fi?
Of course. It's kind of like sitting there and saying that your whole house runs from your wife, too, which may be accurate, but she has a limited bandwidth.
She does a lot.
She does a lot, but she has a limited bandwidth. I know, I'm the mom. But that's where us as an industry, we have to do a better job of the education piece of it. We have to do a better job of, that's how we get that seat at the table, because for everybody in this industry, it's ludicrous to think, yeah, I'd have a car charging station and I'm in a valley and I have no network infrastructure in the entire house. And to us, every single one of us, that's ludicrous. And we laugh and we joke about it. But when I posted that, all of my friends in the industry jumped on and were like, yeah, what an idiot, blah, blah, blah. And we were joking around, isn't that Wi-Fi? Can't you do everything that way? And then when I watched the comments, the people that commented that were designers, that were architects, that were people building their homes, they actually were asking questions like, well, can't you just do that on Wi-Fi? Or what should we be doing? Like, they didn't know. And sometimes there's this level of, we know it, but do we do a good job of explaining it to everybody? Because what seems so common sense to us, to these other people, like, they really aren't getting it. And so we have to do a better job of that.
I think it's, and I'm, again, don't bite my head off for this. I think too often as a channel, we put too much of an emphasis on Cedia doing that work. And if I hear another, we need a Super Bowl commercial, I will take her crown as the social media fit. That being said, there is stuff that, we expect our associations to do and hope that they can help with. But at the end of the day, this should be the job of everyone who's in this industry. But I'm going to preface it with this. If you can't talk respectfully, articulately, and respectfully, you'll notice I said that twice, to people, then just shut up and pull your wire and get out of the house. But if you can come in and eloquently articulate what you're trying to say and what people should be looking for, that's when you have an opportunity to make an impact. But when you go in and you blame the electrician and yell at them, and yeah, they probably suck and they probably did it wrong. We get it. It's fine. But that doesn't, you're not going to make a friend. You have to be a friend to get a friend. Yeah. So go out there and use projects when you're working with designers, or when you're working with builders, or when you're working with electricians, or working with homeowners. Just explain to them why you do what you do, why you do it the way you do it. And that way, maybe it won't help that job, but hopefully it will help the next job. It'll explain to that homeowner when they have their friends over, they're going to then go and show all of their friends the cool cabinet with all the stuff and the blue lights. It's awesome. Look at it. We don't know what it does, but it's cool. When you hit that from a aggressive standpoint, they don't even want to talk about it. It's not that hard. But we need to evangelize it.
I was going to say, interestingly enough, just this last week, Matt, I got a message from one of my friends. Adam Carolla has a podcast out there. You know the comedian Adam Carolla?
I do.
He's got one about...
I've never listened to it.
I don't either, but someone sent it to me. But he had this podcast, and they were talking about, because he also does a home improvement one, they were talking about who are notoriously the worst people on a project that you bring on. And they said, number one, that they thought it was going to be electricians, because electricians, they always think that somebody else did something wrong or whatever. Then somebody said plumbers, and they said, yeah, it's always behind the wall. But they actually said the number one industry that complains about the previous guy that was there was the AV industry. And They said, look, you have no idea what the budget was. You have no idea. And he was actually talking about an experience within his own home. And he was like, I didn't know. Like, I thought I found someone that was like this good, reputable, company or this person or whatever. And then whether they went out of business or whether he did another project and he brought somebody else in, he goes, they just were terrible about saying, this is all crap, this is all terrible, and just completely made him feel bad that he would have even worked with that company before, or that he wouldn't have known somebody else. And he said the number one complaint that they get is the AV industry saying bad stuff about other people in the AV industry. And it was so sad to me.
Giles, you might remember some of this, and we won't talk about the whole of it, but part of it. And then we'll wrap it up. there's something that needs to be said for ownership in this. And we've talked about this in some meetings and stuff that you and I have been in a couple of times. There comes a point where technologies change, things evolve. And to your point, Amanda, you have no idea what the company before you was hired to actually do. Was it wrong? Maybe. Does it matter? Nope. We've got a dental client in town here, and they had one hygienist who was notorious for, as soon as you opened your mouth, oh my gosh, who did your previous work? This is terrible. Your fillings aren't right. Like, down the road. And then she'd try and sell additional work. Do you think anybody in that chair wanted to have that dentist do work for them? No, because they just harass them over all this crap that's in their mouth. We do the same bloody thing. And it goes back to my previous point. If you can explain respectfully why you're doing what you're doing, again, most of our clients don't care. Like, the ins and outs, it really doesn't matter. They just want stuff to work. You don't need to bring the laundry list of, these are all the things we had to fix. Just get in, fix it, make it work, and let them live it and use it. They'll be happy.
And make sure it's done right in the first place. I mean, this comes back to what you were saying just about the evangelizing piece. And taking as much as, we'd love to get a commercial up in the middle of the Super Bowl, that's probably not going to be financially viable. We do this
I'm gonna start
work.
that thread again.
we do. This work is done, by CEDIA through proxy with our integrators, our certified outreach instructors. We've got 700 of them now globally that educate. I mean, just this year alone, there was 2,000 design professionals that were educated through our certified outreach instructor program. That is the way. And those courses detail wired versus wired. That teaches design professionals what the need for having a solid infrastructure network in a home. So that really is the program where that's the only way we're going to get design professionals clued up to this and things actually done properly, and us not having to come in later and then upset everyone by blaming it on pointing fingers on other people. We have the opportunity. I mean, this is the thing. Electrical contractors and plumbers and other trades are not the ones that have this opportunity to get in front of design professionals at the design stage.
Yeah, they don't care.
I mean, so that's our opportunity to get in there and make sure that. So I would really encourage everyone to look at the Certified Outreach Instructor program, because a lot of integrators have done so well with it, and it helps the whole industry. Yeah.
I took the renewal this last year. Actually, that was part of my 2021 training. I resat for the COI because I wanted to see the new program. Well done. And they're even making some additional modifications. And it makes all the difference. When you can have an architect, like one of my biggest projects, like this architect feeds me a lot of work because he just tells people right off the bat. And sometimes that's even before a builder is chosen. He's dropping my name as being the technology person to develop his designs, And so when you can get in and you can do that, it makes all the difference. And explain to people that there is a shelf life, right? On their technology. Sometimes when you go in there, surprise.
What? I am learning so much today.
I love you so much, Matt. But, you can do it in a good way, and when you hold yourself, when you want a seat at that table, it's all about how you hold yourself too. Do you hold yourself professionally? Do you just make sure that you get things done and you get things taken care of? Or are you known as the guy that's always complaining? Guy or gal that's always complaining?
Yeah, that's the key. All right, let's wrap it up. Otherwise, I will soapbox again and get more hate mail, which you can send that directly to me. That's fine. I appreciate it. I totally won't post it on Twitter. Amanda, if people want to connect with you, learn more about True Media Home, where can they do that?
I am online anywhere at True Media Home on all the social media channels, including TikTok now. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter at True Media Home, or my email is
millennials these days.
awildman at True Media Home. I'm going to get you to do a TikTok dance one of these days when I get to see you again in person.
Nice try.
I'll get you on a trend.
I'm actually having Justin keep the borders closed just to avoid that.
Just to avoid that.
Just to avoid that. That's the whole reason. I sent him a text the other day. He was cool with it. Giles, if people want to connect with you, learn more about Cedia, where can they do that?
Twitter or LinkedIn are the best places for me. Or if you've got any inquiry about anything, Cedia related, member at cedia.org for our membership team.
Excellent. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that fun stuff. Thanks again for joining us today and throughout the entire year. If you'd like to connect with me to send me that hate mail, you can do that at Matt D. Scott on Twitter. That will allow me to retweet it to all of my friends. But more importantly, you can visit avnation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.